do if we run low?
I think we're okay. How's the
extension?
I think we're good.
Okay.
So where we take your hand out. Okie doke. So welcome to the series of 7 Habits of Self-Refinement, Part 3. We're going to be analyzing 2 of the midot, 2 of the psyche, the soul, emotions. The first one is loosely translated as ambition or perseverance, and the second one is sincerity. We're going to save next week, we'll do the last 2. So, just a quick review of how we got here. As we said, we're in the time of the Sefirat Haomer. We're counting the Omer, and there's 7 weeks of the Omer. And each week we are refining. The simple reason is because it was a countdown to Shavuot of 7 weeks, the giving of the Torah from Passover to Shavuot. But there is not just the Kabbalistic reason, but the deeper reason given by the commentaries is because the Jews were refining all their soul facets, which in the construct we're using is all their emotions, and there are 7 emotions. So if you see in chart number 1, this is just going to be a quick review. The human soul, or the inner personality of the soul, is comprised of 10 faculties. Quick review. 3 of them are Chachma Bina Dat, which is the intellectual faculties. Hello, welcome. Sit over there and just take a hand, pass your hand up. So we're just doing a quick review of the last week or 2. So there's 10 soul faculties. 3 are intellectual, Chachma Bina Dat, and which is different components of intellect. That is primarily refined the first day, the second day of Passover, the first day of Sefirat, the first day of the counting of the Sefirat, accounting of the Omer is when that's all refined. The other 7 weeks, each week is another emotion being dealt with. Okay, what are the 7 emotions? They are Chesed, Gevura, Tferet, which is kindness/love, strength/fear, Teferet, beauty/mercy, and those we spoke about last week. And the other 4 we still have to get to is Netzach, which is translated as victory, refers to perseverance or prevailing. Hod literally translates as splendor. It refers to /sincerity. And the last 2 for next week is Yesod, foundation, bonding, Malchut, kingship, service. Okay. So, the idea of the refining the 7 emotions is, as we mentioned, we have 2 souls. We have a higher self and a lower self. The lower self is called the animal soul, more instinctive, survival, selfish, self-centered. That's our natural way of being, natural as we're born. And the godly soul is the maturity soul, the one that can appreciate a bigger picture, higher purpose, abstract ideas. So we do that our entire life. It's a lifelong journey, going from, sophisticated animal to more selfless, godly, abstract thinker. Particularly the sphere, but the sphere we're doing it in a very sort of the time of year we focus on it the most, although it's every day of our life. And that is, we're refining the emotions as they exist in our primal human, survival, ego, and we try to recognize them and sublimate them to do the same emotions, but for higher purpose, for the godly soul's purpose. Okay, so we're going to talk about the next two emotions. I was hoping to include next three because they're a triad, a triangle. You'll see in a second why, but I don't think we'll get to the third one, so I'm going to see it for next week. If you go to the second page, which is chart 2, you'll see this is a diagram, very popular diagram in Kabbalah, and that you have Bina, you have the body is mapped out with these 10 faculties, these 10 soul energies. 3 are the intellectual, Chachma on the right, Bina on the Das, like a triangle. And we didn't really talk about that so much because that's not what the 7 weeks is refining. It's focusing primarily on the emotions. So we spoke about, you see by the chest of the person there, you have Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferes, which is kindness on the right. Gevura is on the left. And then the middle, the center, is Tiferes. It's almost, those are all components of it's interesting, just the way they're mapped out, they're all by the chest, because they're all parts or aspects of the heart. And then, yes?
It's kind of interesting that in Chinese medicine, there's like Qigong. Yeah, you kind of see some of them here.
Yeah. I would love to say I'm a master of all knowledges, but you'd have to...
like the third eye and I'm also forgetting, but around
the solar plexus.
Well, but I'm thinking it starts with a D, like Dan something, and Dan Tian or Dan.
Oh,
Dan,
okay.
And then at the feet, and there are these important centers at the chest.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's amazing. Look, a lot, they've said a lot of Eastern wisdom, although some of it's idolatry. We're not going to say it's all like kosher, but there is ancient wisdom in it, and some of it does have a stem from. I've heard. I haven't really researched this. From Torah is Eastern ultimately. Jews are not from Israel and not the Far East, but the East.
Well, also though, I forget his name now. But the power of mythology. That there's certain mythological themes that run through all religions and beliefs.
Interesting. Just incidentally, we don't have our regular cameraman. How are we doing? It's going? It's live? It's good? Yeah, some people are on, I hope. You see?
You are.
Okay.
Well, it indicates a couple of people.
Okay, good. Just making sure we're good. Okay, let's go on. That was a sound check for CBD. That's Chabad Studios. All right, so you see here we have we have here Netzach on the right leg, Hod the left leg, and Yesod is the reproductive organ, and the bottom by the feet is Malchus, which we'll speak about Yesod and Malchus next week. But we're going to talk about Netzach and Hod, the right leg and the left leg. Some say also it's the kidneys, the right kidney. Okay, so we didn't really mention this. I said I have this diagram. I would include. I could have had this last week, but before we go further, this is a very important diagram. It's sort of like if you Google Kabbalah Sefirot, you'll see a person with the Sefirot all mapped out. So I don't want to skimp on your knowledge of Kabbalah here. So we have the man with the human being with the mapped out Sefirot. But I just want to point out the groupings. So the general process of the Sefirot, as we said last week, is we quoted a Mishnah, God could have created the world with one utterance, but chose to do it with 10 utterances, which Kabbalists say is referring to the 10 Sefirot. And God could have said, let there be a world, and be a world with all the same stuff. But God specifically did it with these 10 bridges, multifaceted bridges. And we said the reason was so that we can have a bridge to understand God. I mean, God obviously is infinite oneness, which we have no grasp on, but God wanted to make some expression that we could understand, at least, and he enclosed himself in those 10 expressions. So it's all about the creative process. Of course, that exists in the macrocosm, and in the person exists in the micro. So we have an idea of a desire. Let's take a deep-rooted desire, like to have a house, or to have a lifelong, family. Yeah, exactly. So these are primal desires. They're not like intellectual. I want it necessarily because of a logical reason. They're very rooted at the core of who we are. I was listening to a podcast about secular psychologists, evolution theory, which is not necessarily a Torah idea, but realizes how we're wired for loneliness, to not be lonely, and there's an epidemic of loneliness in the world and in the country, and just interesting that a lot of what Torah says, even science confirms from different methods. But let's say a primal desire to have a family, to be part of a group, to be part of a long commitment relationship. So you have that desire, okay. But then magically it happens. Well, then the first step is you have to think about it. You have to grasp it. What does that mean? You understand. I'm sure a 10-year-old might also have this desire at some level, but it's not a thought out idea. They can't maybe even explain it. So later on with maturity, that primal desire, you intellectualize. You make sense of it. And that's in the first three of the head, Chachma, Bina, Das. In short, is the flash of the idea entering your cognitive process. Bina is the contemplation of that flash of idea. And then Das is the making it very relevant, personally making it relevant to you. Not just an idea, but this is something that I relate to. So once that idea, that primal desire is intellectualized, then it goes further to the emotions. Because you can't just go from idea to action. There's no, it has to go through the emotions. That's part of the human experience. And actually even gains, in a way, you'd say, an artist, right? I have an idea. So you could paint the idea, but I'd imagine, and Susie, you can maybe confirm this, that there's a process of not just intellectual what you want on the canvas, but to let it become part of you, have feelings for it, and then that's what takes on a whole new expression in the actual painting. Am I right? I'm guessing.
Well, I'm not a painter.
Okay.
But I am an artist.
Okay.
But it's a creative expression.
Right.
And it comes from it comes through you automatically.
But I'm saying, do you think you can go directly from the intellect to the expression and skip over the emotions? I'm asking, because Kabbalah says that there's always a level of emotion in between the intellect and the action. Maybe sometimes it's more pronounced, maybe sometimes it's less, but...
Well, I see it in my work.
For the millions of viewers, what do you do, Gary?
I'm a patent attorney, but also I do...
It's a creative...
family law and anything where I can think about it, but until there's some expression, manifestation. Right. There's, just to go, A, B, C, and then go A, B, C. Yeah. It doesn't work that way. There's something there. There's a spark.
It's almost like incubating. You have the thought, and then you let it percolate.
Right. So the percolating in Kabbalah is going through the 7 emotions. So the 7 emotions starts off what we spoke last week. They are Chesed, Givur, and Tiferes, which is let me see. Okay, which are chesed is kindness, love / kindness, but the way we explain in the creative process is kindness means you're giving of yourself. So in this idea, the primal desire or the great idea that really reflects something that you're all about. You think of it, you process it, you make it a ready, relevant idea, but then you decide how much. Let's say you teach. You want to teach to someone. You want to tell it to your patent lawyer, right? You want to explain it.
A set of articles with 2 other guys right now, and it's important to express yourself.
You express. You let it flow. The first step is just flow. Is like free flowing of the idea. And you keep going. You go. It's not even necessarily. It's not like you're giving. You're perfecting it. You're just giving it in its raw form.
Well, it's brainstorming.
Brainstorm would be that'd be a great, and good brainstorm is when you feel comfortable.
Exactly.
You're able to let it,
Emotion has the word emote.
Yeah.
Emote, right? Very good. So the first emotion is to emote, is chesed. The second one is gevura, which we said is discipline or restraint. Where it's because you start sizing up. Like I can't just throw myself on everybody. I can throw my idea, but then it's not. No one's going to get it because they don't get. I can just keep talking and like no filter, but that doesn't work when you're trying to express yourself to someone else. You have to size up what's able to be received. Mm-hmm. And then we said there's tiferet. So one is the feeling of give, one's the feeling of restraining, and tiferet is we translate it as harmony. But a lot of the literal translations are hard to understand. It means empathizing, empathy. Where you think you want to tell the idea, to your friend, your student, whatever, but you start thinking, well, this is I'm a blend of this much giving and that much restraint. But who cares what I am? What does that guy need? Exactly. That's and that's why Tiferes is called truth. It's in the center of the heart. It's like the middle.
Support.
Maimonides says that a true character trait is the middle path. Don't be too don't overspend. Don't be stingy. The middle path. Don't be excessively warm and don't be excessively cold. Be middle. Which is interesting with the middle emotion. The first middle emotion is Tiferes, which is harmony, which is compassion or empathy, because those are a blend of giving and restraining. And we spoke about that last week. You can see the class.
Your mother said that? Is that what you said? Your mother?
No, we spoke about that last week.
No, did you just say that your mother said take the middle road?
I said Maimonides. Maybe it was a Freudian slip, and I said my mother said. Okay.
Yeah.
I know you remember my mother from the Seder. Yeah, we'll have to have her give a class. We do it within technology. We can do it. All right. So then we go to tonight's two emotions, which is netzach and hon. These are, I'll tell you, interesting. Growing up in Chabad Yeshiva, you learn a lot of Hasidic philosophy, Kabbalistic, ideas, particularly in the book, the Tanya, and Chesed and Gevura, and even Tiferes. The first three are you sort of get. They're kind of, you want to give, Chesed's giving, Gevura is, sizing up, restraining, Tiferes is a blend. But the last three, the last four, you don't really know so much what they mean. And I must say, I really enjoyed the opportunity to research some of these ideas for the class. So in short, the next triad, is that they pronounce it triad? Mm-hmm. Of emotions is netzach hod yesod. They are, you notice everything is 3, 3, 3. So there's a right column, right? Even the chachmu. Triad is the triple. Okay. So you have a right column going down, chesed and netzach, and chachma backing by intellect. In the left you have gevura and hod. In the middle you have tiferes and yesod. And the reason is the first triad of emotions are inner emotions. It's the way you feel. Now even tiferes, which is truth, and it's the way you empathize, but it's still the way it's inside of you. it's still not trying to get it out of you. It's the way you're, processing the emotion inside of you. Should I give this poor person $100? Should I give him 25 cents? I think it would be appropriate to give him $5. That would be what he would be really happy with. That's empathizing with his plight. Fine, but then there is actually going to do it. I mean, you can't even jump from the way it feels inside without the next set of emotions, which parallel the first three, but they are what we call emotions in action. They're still inside. They're not action yet, but it's where the emotions are trying to move towards the outside. They're trying to, let me get the feelings that I have and get it to the outside. It's not outside yet. That will be the last step, malchus, which is the action. But it's the stage of trying to bring it out. It's the internal emotions. The first set of three emotions are how we feel inside, about how we're going to let something, the idea, the ideal, the value, the sharing out. The emotions in action parallel. So let's talk about Netzach, which is, you'll notice it's in the right column. So am I passing a handout? I should not pass something. Thank you. All right, so we have here the next page, the third page, is Netzach. All right. So Netzach literally means victory. That's why in the first column it said Netzach is victory.
No, that's in the Kedusha.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what Netzach means.
So it's in the davening and some other places. All these actually Sefirot are, we say L'cha Hashem Hagadula V'Gevura V'Tiferes V'Netzach V'Od, which I think is a quote from somewhere in the prophets of the Tanakh. Right. So what we're saying, God, in us in the image of God, have Netzach. Literally means victory. But here's the way it would, that would be, the way it is in the Kabbalistic translation. But what does it mean? What would be a true translation in the human psyche? So there's really three definitions, or three components of one definition. And the first one is, I wrote grit and perseverance. So Netzach is perseverance. Prevailing, perseverance. And 2 and 3 is just different, it's like sort of other manifestations of perseverance. With the number 2 being competition, and 3 inspiration. So let's see a verse in the Torah. We don't just, the rabbis didn't just some really inner feeling rabbis didn't just come up with this. This is all sourced in the Torah. Kabbalah, although it was not a widely learned study, it's mysticism after all. It was reserved for those that were mystics. Most of the Jewish scholarship of history till the 1600s was Talmud, Torah, the Bible, the Mishnah, the laws, the mitzvahs, analyzing them. But we can look back, even these ideas that are Kabbalistic ideas, sourced not even in the Talmud, even in the Tanakh, in the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Kesuvim, which is the 5 books of Moses, and in total 24 books of the Tanakh. So in Shmuel Aleph, chapter 15, verse 29, Shmuel, Samuel 1, it says there a verse, V'gam netzach Yisrael lo yishakir v'lo yinachem, ki lo adam hu yinachem. Moreover, the eternalness of Israel, referring to God, capital E, does not deceive or change his mind, for he is not human that he should change his mind. This is referring to when Samuel, the prophet, told King Saul that God has decreed that you've lost the kingship, and it's being given over to someone else, to David. And the term that he uses for God is not a typical one, like Hashem or Elokim. It's Netzach Yisrael, the eternalness of Israel, which, by the way, I think it was King Louis the 16th, or I don't know, I'm not sure which one it was, but asked Pascal, as the story goes, or some great philosopher, could you give me a proof of God?
Definitely Pascal, he's a great mathematician.
And it was that time, I'm trying to remember this guy. So King Louis XVI asked Pascal, can you give me a proof, a philosophical proof of God's existence? And the story goes, you can Google it, that Pascal answered, the Jews, Your Highness, the Jews. I mean, the Jewish existence is not a rational existence. The people in exile to exist in such a far out dispersion and continue to exist. Every other people that gets conquered, they assimilate into the conquering force. Any Vikings or Babylonians left? No, Babylonians were conquered by the Persians. They became Persian. You don't remain a distinct minority once you're conquered. Let alone where you're conquered or controlled by 100+ kingdoms through history. Yet the Jews miraculously exist. So that's what Pascal told King Louis XVI. The Jews, Your Highness, the Jews. This is what it says in the Torah. God is called Netzach Yisrael, the eternalness of Israel. One, because God's eternal and we worship God, but it's also that the Jewish people's existence is eternal because we're God's people. So that's where it comes from, that term. Netzach, but in regards to our class, we're talking about the midah, the emotion of Netzach. Where is in the Torah? Well, it's in this. God is called Netzach Yisrael, referring to the Jews' perseverance throughout history. How God gives us the strength for us to persevere throughout history. So perseverance is Netzach. Why is that a fundamental core emotion? Gary, you're still good? Still good? It's on? Battery's good? Okay. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Sure. Yeah, you're doing good.
Okay, we do our own sound check here. We need someone next week for makeup. Help. All right, anyways, but why is this a core emotion? Remember, we said the 7 emotions there's many emotions, but these are if you took all and you boiled all the emotions and you took away all the the excess and the redundancies, you'd find 7 core. Why is perseverance a core emotion? And here's why. We can understand why love/kindness is a core emotion. We even said it, out of all the 7, it's perhaps the most core. Fine. Because it's all about expressing. Chesed is about expressing. Kindness is expression. Love is expressing, is reaching out. But, as we mentioned before, the first 3 emotions are the way it's inside of you. It's not yet pushed out. It's not in action. It's not emotions trying to make their way into the big world, the big scary world.
But they need to.
That's where the other 3, these 3 emotions, these 3, they're not really new emotions. They are I don't know what you call it, they're the agents. They're the Hollywood agents of the other 3. They're the way the other agent. They're moving. They're their own emotion, but they're moving forward existing emotion. So love and kindness to move forward. Passion. Love and kindness is passion. You have passion for something, right? You want to. You bring. You go into the real world and you try to do your passion. Let's say someone has a passion to teach basic education skills to children in third world countries. They get to the country and they're passionate, they're idealistic. They have so much to give, so much love and knowledge to give, which is perfect examples of chesed. And they're there. The children aren't interested. The village elders don't value education as much as military strength or strength. The government, the politicians that are accepting, the Peace Corps' education project. They're just using it for corruption purposes, to take money. So our very idealistic 22-year-old comes to Ghana or whatever, and comes to that maybe switch so you can just see the camera. Make sure it's not whatever. Anyways,
we can see.
You're good. Okay. I guess we don't have our trained cameraman tonight, Marvin. So we're just making sure. Okay, very good. Okay. But anyway, so we're talking about Netzach.
I haven't watched one year.
Who knew?
But I really use it.
So it's this. So we have our 22-year-old that's in Ghana trying to teach education to a third world country, but no one's interested. And the government officials are totally just corrupt and just using him out. What happens? So you're passionate. What happens? You hit a brick wall. So what happens? The passion alone will quit. If that's what's driving you, when the real world challenges come, you're going to quit.
You're not going to persevere.
You're not going to persevere. Not necessarily will you persevere. Passion alone will not necessarily persevere. Movies imply that.
A young person.
Well,
You're talking 22-year-old.
Right, but even an older person wants to learn something new, a new language or whatnot. I'm smart, I'm educated, I want to learn Japanese. And then you take,
Yeah.
But we'll see. But my point is, we all have even the 22-year-old has a certain set of emotions that can overcome where passion ends, Netzach continues.
It's like the ninja emotion.
So, if we know, maybe we can, if next year's marketing, we'll give it really cool names, like Netzach is the ninja within, All right, anyways, but
competition.
well, it's actually about competition next.
Yeah.
So, what happens is, Netzach is, when passion ends, you say, nonetheless, I have a dogged determination to persevere and see this through. Not because I'm enjoying it. If that's my currency, it's depleted. That's Netzach. Netzach is not just perseverance.
Well, it's a teaching in itself.
Well, I'm saying, that case, it's teaching, but he's coming with challenges that are making the teaching, the way he's understood it, and what he really loves to do is really, really hard. There's a lot of blocked walls. So his passion for teaching, as he knew it, is done.
Well, I don't mean he's the teacher.
Oh.
But the lesson that he's...
But they're not listening. They're not listening. They're laughing in his face.
I don't mean the class.
Oh.
It's just that he's supposed to be there. And that's his lesson. That's his lesson. What is he going to be?
What's he? Okay. No, true. And that's a very good way always to deal with difficult setbacks, is to think, what am I learning from my setback? Nonetheless, he has this passion, this desire, which we spoke about earlier, where he wants to see it through. But it's just, there's no love in it anymore because it's so hard. So Netzach is what we'd call not just perseverance, I'd say it's irrational perseverance. Because, why am I saying irrational? I mean, in a loose sense of the word. Because it's not worth it intellectually anymore. It's like someone is an entrepreneur and they have this great idea. And 5 years later, they're heavily in debt and they're still not there yet. So intellectually, there's no reason to go on. Cut your losses and move on. Emotionally, you're really let down. And they say, startups, the odds are against you, and at a certain point, it's really easy. It's natural to want to throw in the towel. But the person that carries on is because they have a place in them where they're so sold on the idea and ideal beyond, they have an attachment to the ideal, their passion, whatever, the value, the intellectual idea, beyond the way they feel about it. Meaning there's a certain attachment, irrational attachment, to this, we said, desire, be it primal, be it creative.
What's an example of that?
So an example of that would be where this young Peace Corps volunteer has to, although the way he or she loved teaching, he was taught how you're going to reach people, and it's going to be, it's going to be incredible, the enjoyment of teaching the ABCs to those and the basic reading skills. He's not seeing it. So, but he sticks in because we're going to go through how you can conjure up this emotion. But if you do, if you do it, what's pushing you? What's pushing you? It's not enjoyment. It's not love.
No, but you don't want to fail.
Oh, so there we go. So part of you don't want to fail.
You know,
So it's two things.
You
It's
took on a mission. You want to see it through. That's all. You don't want to be a failure.
but why? I mean, does a human being like?
Well, it could be a person's own pride.
Well, it could be a lot. It could be shame. It could be a lot of things.
Right. Yeah.
At the same time, that's okay. Ask the question again.
So the question is at a certain point when there's so much failure or so much difficulty,
No.
why would you continue?
Well,
So you said it's pride. It's something.
Thomas Edison was convinced of the light bulb, and he had done 6,000 experiments and failed. And the reporter asked him, "Why aren't you giving up?" He said, "You've had 6,000 failures." He says, "No, I now know 6,000 ways it won't work."
Wow.
But you're going.
So here's an example. Any idea of perseverance is where it comes from. You can think of a startup, and all those stories of the
Well, you're going to make it work.
and that feeling so it's about you. So it's interesting. It's your success. I mean, the truth, we can debate this. I only read like 3 books on this, but it's still I don't have it down to a science entirely. But I think the mere fact there is a concept of perseverance shows there's something beyond love, and we say actually this perseverance is rooted into the primal will, which you could say is your will to, will to be, expressing itself in this. Survival. Now, it's not survival, meaning you don't have to go do the startup. You don't have to teach the kids in Ghana. But I guess the manifestation of particular ambitions are rooted, although it's just one ambition, but it's rooted in a primal desire to be. So we said there's another aspect of perseverance, which is competition. This is where it gets a little even more exciting. So we spoke in previous classes.
But that could be ego, right?
Well, we're going to talk about. We're going to take all the emotions exist in the ego and they exist in the godly soul. So we're going to speak at the end of that. At the end of the general description of the emotion, we'll talk how it plays out in either. So the Rebbe gave a. He told over a parable from his father-in-law about, and this is in 1951, he was quoting actually from a parable that his father-in-law had written a year earlier, about a king engaged in a war. A king gets into a war, and at a certain point, the profits of the war is, let's say it's $2 million, or whatever, or a swath of land that's worth $10 million, but it's not going. The war is so hard; it's going so hard, and it's battle, and he's losing, and it's back and it's forth. At a certain point, the king says, "I want to win this so badly." He opens up the crown jewels. The crown jewels are worth $1 billion, and he says, "Spend the money on the crown. Take the crown jewels. Get the latest, more soldiers, more weaponry, whatever. You got to win." Why? Why you're spending more money to for what? You're not going to make more. You're not going to make more. The payoff is not as much as you're going to spend the investment. They say a joke. How do you make a small fortune in farming? You start with a big fortune. I don't know.
Well, that's a lot of truth there, though, because of every situation is so different. The young woman going to teach. It's not about money.
Right. But here I'm talking about a king trying to get this swath of land that's only worth a certain amount to the kingdom, whatever it is, and he's willing to spend even more money than it's worth to win the war. Right. So competition brings something, this primal urge to win, to be victorious, to validate our ambitions. Particularly, you have an ambition even without someone competing against you. But when someone competes against you, it even heightens it even more, which is all the idea behind all sports competition.
You have to surrender to that.
Well, or
That's
sticking
my
with the
Yeah.
war glibly.
It doesn't sound like a very positive.
No, see, when I was...
But we're going to talk. There's two motions tonight. So before we
They balance each other out.
exactly, we're going to have to. This is a story. The Rebbe one time wrote a story about a butcher, a kosher butcher. Now, kosher butchers take a risk. I think in Fill on the Roof, the richest man in Anatevka was a butcher, if I'm not mistaken. The butchers said it was a risky business because you get a cow, and it could be the cow's organs are punctured and therefore it's treif. Treif means really, it's a term for use for not all non-kosher food, but really it means literally an animal when it has a punctured lung, even if you slaughter it appropriately and humanely, it's just inherently not kosher from some of the breakdown of its internal organs. So you don't know that. You buy a cow for $1,500 and you slaughter it, like, oh, it's questionable. So he brings it to this butcher, bought a cow, and he wanted to know, do I have to lose $1,500? They would sell it to the non-Jew for a little bit, but they lost some money. So he brings it to the rabbi of the town, and the rabbi says, unfortunately, I'm sorry, it's treif, it's not kosher. So the butcher, kosher, upright, God-fearing man, said, okay, takes the loss. The next day, the butcher, a week later, the butcher got into an argument with a customer about another matter, and the customer says, you owe me $10. And he says, no, I don't. I was totally don't. You're wrong. And they're fighting over it. So when you have arbitration, you go to a rabbi in the shtetl. So they go to the rabbi. The rabbi is well versed in Jewish legal law. Hears both sides, the butcher and the customer, and says to the butcher, I'm sorry, the customer's right. You have to pay him Torah law, so you have to pay him $10. And the butcher says, you're not a rabbi. You're taking his side. You're corrupt. And he goes nuts. So the Rebbe, told the story over humorously. Said, like, a week ago, the rabbi says you gotta, cut your losses. The cow, $1,500, 1,500 ruble. It's not kosher. He's fine. No, that's the law. It's the law. Fine. But now for $10, he's going nuts. He's losing himself at the rabbi. He's so angry. Why? It's competition. Competition. It brings in us the need to win, which is connected to the need to persevere, which is the emotion and action, the parallel emotion and action of a more inner emotion we call kindness. Kindness or love is you want to go do it, you want to express, you want to do your thing. The emotion action is where that starts meeting the real world, and it's not so simple. It's never so simple. We spoke about the Torah is usually very concise. Yet when it talks about the description of making the temple, it's so not concise. It repeats two whole parshas twice. One in the tense of God saying, Moshe, make the temple, the tabernacle, and include a menorah and the altar, and lists all the things. That's 2 or 3 parshas. And then another 2 parshas as, and Moshe told the Jews, and they made the menorah and the altar and the temple. It's just like taking from the command tense to the past tense. They did it. That's not characteristic of the Torah. Why is it repeating itself? And one of the reasons is because the lesson of the way it is in the ideal state, God tells Moshe, it's in this this theoretical, beautiful, spiritual idea of having a temple on earth. But that's not the way it is in actuality. The Jews have to go do it. I mean, they did it accordingly, but it's never as pristine to the conceptual model. And how do you do it when it's never as pristine to your concept? That's perseverance, pushing through, seeing it through. I want it to happen. I'm going to push it through even against hardship and beyond my enjoyment or respect for the idea.
You are persevering with this particular topic, I'll tell you.
Thank you. It's a big compliment. All right, inspiration, another component. Well, how do you do it? Well, let's say you're hitting a wall, and it's like, you're trying to start a business or whatever. You're hitting a wall. Well, you're trying to persevere, but you're feeling not in the mood. It's not going. What do you do? Are some people just more ambitious and persevering than others? Or how do you get more of that stuff. We all need it, right? How do you do it? So that's the idea of inspiration. Inspiration, and this is from Psalms, everything goes back to the Torah, the written Torah. It says, you will teach me the path of life. In your presence is perfect joy. Delights are ever in your right hand. If you see that in Hebrew, Todieni orachayim sova smachos espanecha ni'imois b'mincha netzach. In your right hand, delights are ever in your right hand. Netzach. It's used a little differently, but the exact language usage is your right hand is netzach. As we said before, because chesed...
On the left side.
Netzach is in the right side.
Oh, yeah?
When you're facing it.
Oh.
Yeah, I saying it's the person's...
Here, Netzach means forever, though.
But it's it's used loosely. But anyways, it's in the right side. Either the diagram is wrong or it's the face. Right. Actually, I think, yeah, it's definitely the right side. I mean, that's no question. So Netzach is in the right side because, again, it's the extension of Chesed. So how does inspiration, how do you draw upon inspiration in order to get more perseverance? You're down and out. You're in Ghana. You're in the 5 years into your business, your startup, and it's really hard. What do? You start thinking, You start thinking about the idea. Take yourself out of the picture. Start thinking of inspiration. Famous football game quote: "Win one for the Gipper." Right? Did I get that right? I think I'm saying it right. Win one for the Gipper. Right? It was for those that don't know, and I just found out today. Some old film, the star football player is dying, and he says Ronald Reagan was the actor, 1940, and he plays this ill athlete who says one day when the boys are on the field and they're down and out, tell them to win this one for the Gipper. Meaning, draw upon the inspiration higher than what you're getting out of it. Get to the concept, get to the fact, the idea, not how you feel about it.
It's not small. It's so much bigger.
Yes, and then when you draw upon inspiration, it helps you persevere beyond the passion.
Well, the Toronto Maple Leafs just were very, very inspired after that horrible incident in Toronto and won a game against the Boston.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
So to sum up, because we got to go to another emotion. We got to do that quick, but it's sort of complementary. Godly souls. Emotion of Netzach, and the animal soul's emotion of Netzach, because they both have it, right? And our job is to shift away from the ego's natural use of each emotion, in this case Netzach, and to use it for the godly soul. So the godly soul, the selfless side, the higher self, would be like this. Number one, use your grit and perseverance to finish good deeds, even when harder than expected. And two, it's even a way to even make yourself become more of a good fighter. Competition over evil, injustice. And it doesn't have to be external injustice or evil. We believe in Judaism, we have something called the good inclination and evil inclination. Man will always have a human being will always have a voice of negativity that's swaying you to do the wrong thing. It says in the Talmud, when the evil inclination is telling you to do bad, incite yourself, incite your Yetzer Tov over it. Incite, meaning get competitive against yourself. Number three, when you're feeling on the mood, get inspired. Inspiration for the cause higher than your self-comfort. That would be the godly soul's way of using Netzach. Netzach and the animal soul. Next page, the bottom of this page. Netzach is ambition, but it's ego ambition. It's ego perseverance. And it's not integrated with, others or higher purpose. It's all about self. So, that would be grit and perseverance to fulfill your ego's desire. You become an action, stubborn to get your way. Just to get your way.
Can you plow people over?
Competition over others. You plow people over others and not care about others. And we'll give an example of that in a second. Number three, inspiration of your goal, ambition to work feverishly for a selfish goal to exclusion of all. You start making your ambitions higher than even rational. Like just about, you reach your primal ego desire, which is to get, feel egocentric or survival driven, which goes, you can damage yourself along the way to do that. Quick example, because we have only 10 minutes for the other one, is Tower of Babylon. It says they all came to the nations of the world after Noah came together to build a tower of Babel. I mean, Tower of Babel, which Babylon.
Oh, okay.
Tower of Babel was when all the nations of the world post Noah came to build a tower, and they said they're going to go up against God. Many commentaries what that means, but they were using one of the experiences. Look at human civilization. We can create our own world. We can create a civilization greater than God can. We don't need God. We can. And what happened in the end? They started. It says they started. They couldn't cooperate because it was all. One of the commentaries says they couldn't cooperate. They couldn't finish the tower because they were so. It was about everybody self-actualization.
No battery.
Okay, we'll be good for 10 minutes, I think.
20% agree.
Yeah, there we go. So that's an example you can imagine in our own life. It says they would be more concerned with a brick being broken.
You want low power mode?
Yeah, there we go. I think it's fine. Just leave it. All right, so that's okay. Next, we got to finish the next one. Hod is a necessary complementary emotion to Netzach. The definitions of Hod is literally splendor. What does that mean? 2 is sincerity. 3 is a manifestation of sincerity is compromise. Hod, in Kabbalistic terminology, is always brought together. Hod, Netzach and Hod are like two partners. They're always together. The right leg and left leg. The 2 kidneys, they're always also called. They're always together with Netzach because it tempers it. Because you have Netzach about your irrational passion or irrational perseverance, you can destroy others in the way. You will destroy others in the way. Because it's not rational. I'm going to war. I'm not going with you. Then I'm going to kill you. So splendid. Let's see this in the Torah. It says in Psalms chapter 104, verse 1, Baruch nafshi es Hashem, Hashem Elokai, gadalta ma'od. Hod, keyword, v'hadr lavashta. Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord, my God, you are very great. You are clothed in splendor. Hod is splendor in the Torah, the majesty. Okay. Sincerity. Let's talk about sincerity. According to Hasidism, or Kabbalah, splendor is a very loose word. What does it mean? Splendor refers to splendor is something like intense beauty, referring to self-transcendent achievement. It's the counterbalance to Netzach, where it is about the truism / fact / ideal you are working or fighting so hard for. It's not about how you feel about the cause. It's about the cause. It's your humility to the cause you are fighting for. Or your sincerity, if you want to get a more contemporary.
That takes you out of the picture.
Yes. Hod is saying, it's not, yes, you can be a super rational maniac to get it done. You could do that, and that's doable. But it's not only about you. It really shouldn't be about you. This is the willingness to put your ego aside for the greater good of the cause. Turns out, which is funny, you get further with humility, which means you're doing less. You're tempering your crazy drive for ambition when you have the humility, because you won't be as pig-headed, and you'll go even further. Not even pig-headed. At a certain point, you can only fight so far. You can only fight so far, and then you'll lose, or whatever, in war, let's say. But if it's all about you doing your thing, even as, feverishly. But if it's about the cause, you're going to think beyond, take yourself out of the picture. How do we get it done? How do I get more people on board? You start thinking outside of how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not about you.
When Michael Jordan started playing with other...
Oh, exactly. You stole my thought about basketball. Oh my gosh. Back to the story of the butcher. So back to the butcher. If the butcher really cared about, if he was being in his right mind about doing what's right, why is he willing to waste $1,500 on a cow that's treif? Because he's following Torah. The same Torah says when you lose in court and you have an arbitrator and it says you have to you do it graciously. You say, here's the $10. I wish it was otherwise, but that's what it is. But that's what it's more about him. Mm-hmm. It'd be more about what I'm not saying ultimately he wasn't about that, but you forget that. If you would think, why am I doing all this? Why am I being a kosher butcher? It's about doing the Torah and the gospel. God wants me to listen. God wants me to give in graciously. Mm-hmm. Example, basketball superstars. That when they play, if they play Netzach, victory, they're doing their thing. I'm going to be the superstar. I'm going to give it all I got. They think about winning the game. Reminds them it's not about you giving all you got only.
It's a team.
It's about winning. Well, it's about the win. Is it the greatest chance of winning, which will be when it's a team. When you put yourself aside a little bit to get more people involved to win. Hod goes further than Netzach. Humility will make you go further than Netzach. An interesting point, compromise. So, I don't want to get too much into this, but Hod, because it's so much about the cause, and not about the way you feel about the cause, or even are passionate or crazy passionate, it will be also more open to compromise, like this. In every goal, you have two aspects. You have the core essence of the goal, and you have the externals, the packaging. Let's say it's going really hard. It's not your kid's birthday party. You're going to throw the ultimate birthday party for your 7-year-old. You have it all planned out. You look at Martha Stewart, and you have it all planned out. And then you realize the kid doesn't necessarily, and then you think about it, the kid doesn't necessarily want this overblown production. In bar and bat mitzvah, perfect example, right? I'm going to throw the bar mitzvah of a lifetime. And then you think, is that really what it's about? Or is that really what the kid even wants? So you're going to do a great bar mitzvah, or are you going to, it's the kid being happy and feeling special. And when you focus more on the purpose, you will change the way you'll do your thing. Okay. Interesting point. Hod is in the left column because it's the emotion action of Gevura. Gevura, we said, is respect. Compared to love, it's a little less self-oriented. Love is how you feel about it. Respect, although it's the way you feel about it also, but it's a little more about the thing you're respecting versus how I want to connect to the thing. It's more, respect is more about the other. Okay. Hod in the Torah. Yehuda, Judah, comes from the root word of Hod, which Yehuda can mean Hoda. In that context, Hod means splendor is loose, but it means actually acknowledgement or thankfulness. If you see in the bottom, it says, Leah, Jacob's wife, she conceived again and bore a son and declared, this time I will acknowledge and thank the Lord. Therefore she named it Judah in Hebrew. Hapam Oda es Hashem. This time I will acknowledge the Lord, and therefore she called him Yehuda. The Hod is in there if you can see it. And the idea of acknowledgement is very, very powerful, and we do this every morning in Judaism in prayer. Modani literally means I thank you, but really means I'm acknowledging. I'm acknowledging, and therefore I'm thankful to God. I give thanks to you, living in an everlasting King, for you restored my soul with mercy. Great is your faithfulness. It doesn't just mean thank you. Moda also in Hasidism will teach, it means I acknowledge this incredible thing. I'm getting a life. That's way beyond the human can fathom how I have a life force. I'm acknowledging. I'm in awe. I'm in total appreciation, acknowledgement mode, and therefore I thank, of course. To be really thankful, I read this in preparing for this class, some people have a difficult time saying thank you. They'll say that was nice of you. They'll even say thanks. Thank you takes a little bit of humility. Because it's like, I needed this thing. It's vulnerability. I needed this other person.
You're taking.
Right.
Taking requires.
Thank you. I needed you. You compliment. You helped me.
Because it's hard to be on the receiving end.
Yeah. But this is, we're going to talk about that in a second. We're going to skip the optional part.
That's a good point. Mm-hmm.
Hod is about acknowledging truth because it is truth. Not how you feel about it, but acknowledging truth because it is truth.
It takes a lot of humility.
Takes a ton, and that's why acknowledgement is the to-do action of this emotion of the soul. So, we're at a time. Hod of the godly soul is humility/sincerity of the mission's truth and caring about its core implementation, or our soul's mission. A Jew's mission, Torah, mitzvahs. Well, I don't like that mitzvah. Well, it's not only about how you like it, it's about your mission. It's about the truth of it. And the other thing of the godly soul in our relationships with others would be learning to appreciate your blessings and what others do for you and your family. Being appreciative, acknowledging how much you get, how much we take. Okay, and that, of course, what's the animal soul's way of doing Hod? That'd be false humility.
What's false humility?
False humility is like,
Like trying to be modest when you're trying to show off, like.
To be honest, I haven't really. I'm gonna be really humble here. I haven't really thought I can get as far to the examples of false humility.
With the cow example, it's like, okay, I'll do it. I don't want to, and you just be, rather than saying, well, that's what the Torah says, then you have to do it, and that's.
I feel like people who are really full of themselves, and they put on this modest facade almost,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not real. It's not real humility.
We're out of time, so I just want to we'll cut the camera in a minute. Just 2 exercises. Every week we do this. Every living thing must grow. So we're going to end off with 2 exercises for the class and for our online class viewers. Netzach. Exercise for the week. Your perseverance emotion. Commit yourself. Commitment is a good word. Commit yourself to developing a new good habit. How about we commit ourselves to say Moda Ani? It's a 2 for 1. Hod exercise of the week. Before praying with humility and acknowledgement of God, give some charity. It will enhance your prayers. Or how about this? Like I said, a 2 for 1. Make yourself a commitment, if you don't do it already, to say Moda Ani. You can take it from the handout every morning and try to think for 30 seconds of the committal. Because after the second day, it loses the novelty. It's not hard. I've been there, done that. They say you can start. I've started a new exercise 14 times. But let's be committal of saying Moda Ani every morning and taking 30 seconds to think thank you and acknowledging Hashem giving me a life, gratitude for Hashem giving us life, a little gratitude maybe to all quickly of what others do for us. 30 seconds a day. Say the prayer Moda Ani in the handout and take 30 seconds to think what it means. Have a wonderful week. And tonight, by the way,
what about the
Omer, last page. Thank you for credit. Tonight is Netzach, Shebe Netzach. It's a double whammy. So I will say the Omer. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher Kiddushanu Mitzvaysav V'tzivanu Al Sefirat Haomer. Today is 25 days, which is 3 weeks and 4 days of the Omer. May the Merciful One restore us unto the service of the Beit HaMikdash to its place speedily in our days. Amen. Selah. I'm going to say the bottom of